everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. I am joined right now by Juno, the dog, the official dog of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. She's, for those of you who have video right now, you can see her right next to me with her tail wagging. If you don't, that's fine as well. The important thing is that we're all here to talk about professional wrestling, or at least I'm here to talk about professional wrestling for a couple of hours right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. We're on your favorite podcast application. Wherever it may be, you can listen to me. Hey, that rhymes. You can also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify if you feel inclined to do that. That would be great. Or a like on YouTube and a subscription as well. Don't forget to do that. That way you won't miss a thing of all the things that happen here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Today is August 21st. We record these live on YouTube every Tuesday night. So this is recorded on August 20th, but everything released then on the 21st. So if you ever want to pop into a live stream, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't make it to this final edit of the podcast. So I'd love to have you. It's right there, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, you can join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. That's a good way to remember things. Link is in the description. We'd love to have you there as well. But as it stands right now, we're going to get into some wrestling talk. Look, we're previewing All In London 2024. We are doing a post-mortem of the G1 Climax 34. That's all been wrapped up. I also wrapped up my daily coverage as well. So that's all out of the way. So we'll be doing that. Got some news and notes. We're talking to contracts, injuries per usual, AEW Stadium show. Look, it's a big show. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. Thank you for being here. We are going to start off this week by talking about the passing of Afa Anoa'i, who passed away on August 16, just a couple of days ago. On August 16, like I said, he was 81 years old. He had been battling for his life after entering hospice care recently. He had suffered 2 heart attacks in January while battling pneumonia. So just an awful situation. Then he underwent multiple back surgeries after suffering a fall, well, like in this late winter, March, something like that. I believe it was in March. Just a terrible series of circumstances. His death was announced by his son Samu on social media. What's even more remarkable, I don't know if remarkable is the right word, but what's even more astounding, I guess, is that his death happened like not even 2 months after his brother Sika passed away. I mean, look, Afa also, like his brother, had a big career. Afa began wrestling in 1971, and in fact, he helped to train Sika to become a pro wrestler, where they became a touring team. Starting off in Canada, then in the US and in Japan as well. They actually debuted in 1973, in Stampede Wrestling, calling themselves the Wild Samoans. Now, there's a lot of Afa's background that, I already talked about when Sika passed away very recently. I don't want to sound disrespectful, but they share such a common history, at least in the early parts of their career, forming the Wild Samoans, getting that wild man gimmick across with conviction, right? And, working all over the territories at the time, big time wrestling, Continental, Gulf Coast Championship Wrestling, NWA All-Star, NWA Mid-America, Stampede, of course, the World Wrestling Council. They wrestled in New Japan, Mid-South, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and then, of course, which is probably where most people know him, the WWF. They had 3 runs, in fact, in WWF. The first one in 1980, where they were managed by Lou Albano, and they had a really big push there as well. They won the tag teams the tag team titles, for the first time, off of Ivan Putski and Tito Santana. Then lost the titles at Shea Stadium that very summer to Bob Backlund and Pedro Morales, which was the co-main event, the semi-main event. The show was headlined, of course, by Bruno Sammartino versus Larry Zbyszko. The Samoans then took a break from WWE, came back in January 1983, once again managed by Lou Albano. They won the WWF World Tag Team titles, and they won it for a third and final time on March 8th, 1983, defeating Chief Jay Strongbow and Jules Strongbow. And it was during this reign that Sika had sustained an injury, and the rest of of those defenses were done with his nephew Samu substituting in for several defenses, anyway, at the very least. And they finally lost the titles to Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas in November 1983. Now, as opposed to Sika, who had maybe a longer career in ring and had a well advertised, I don't want to say prominent, well advertised might not be the right word, but had a singles run. How about that? He had a proper singles run. There we go. That sounds right. Afa sort of remained more present in the tag team scene. Nonetheless, during his WWF tenure, he did have several singles matches for the WWF Championship, including a match in 1983 against Bob Backlund, and in 1984 he challenged Hulk Hogan in Utica, Hartford, New York, in Utica and Hartford, Utica, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut, as well. And that's it. Like, he when they finally lost the titles to Johnson and Atlas, he left the company in January 1985, and he basically stayed away from everything until 1982, where he was hired back as a manager for Fatu and Samu, so that they could so they would be some sort of a trio on that front. After that, well, he founded the wrestling school with his brother, and that's pretty much been it for the rest of his career. Never really got seriously back into the ring. Made an appearance. What was it last year, the year before, in WWE to as part of the Bloodline angle as well. So a long career in pro wrestling, a successful one as well, but mostly noted as being one of the key members of the impressive Samoan dynasty in professional wrestling. So there we go. May, of course, he rest in peace. Afa Anoa'i, 81 years old, passed away on August 16. There you have it. So on Thursday, August 15, 2024, there was a press conference in the city of Arlington, Texas, where it was announced by All Elite Wrestling that they are bringing the All In show to Arlington, Texas. Had a press conference there with city officials. TK, as in Tony Khan, announced that the pay-per-view will emanate from Globe Life Field Stadium on July 12, 2025. And it just so happens that this is the stadium where the Texas Rangers play for Major League Baseball, of course. It's a 40,000 seat arena, probably They can probably do a little more for concerts and the like. But yeah, it's not the biggest stadium in the United States, but it's absolutely not the small. Like, this is a good sized, decent baseball stadium. And it will be the first. It will be the first pro wrestling show ever held in the venue as well. The All In event next year is going to be a production of AEW, Rev Entertainment, the Arlington Sports Commission, and the City of Arlington. So I'm sure that there's a lot of solid relationships that were developed here throughout the residency at the esports arena that AEW was using over the past a good part of the summer here to tape Collisions and Ring of Honor as well, and hold the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. So probably a lot of good came out of this. Of course, it's unknown right now what financial incentives the promotion has been given to host an event, but I think it would be naive to think that they're not getting some kind of site fee, right? I think it would be, I think it would be naive to think that they're not getting some kind of money here for that. And in the over the course of the event, Khan also confirmed that All In is going to return to London in 2026. Don't worry there, y'all across the pond, you limey blokes. All In will be back in 2 years. So what to make of all of this? Well, I'm glad you asked. I think, first and foremost, I think that this is a smart move to begin with, right? And I think a lot of, I'm not exactly having an original thought here. I feel like there's a lot of people who feel the same way. And I'm a little, this was announced last Thursday. There's already been a few days. There's already been almost a week now that's transpired by the time you're listening to this. So probably there's a chance if you listen to other podcasts or you read your news somewhere, you probably got the same type of analysis here. Whereas in this circumstance, where I think it's a smart move because you can see immediately this year, 2024 All In London is not selling as much as last year. Last year was gangbusters crazy, and they filled out Wembley. This year, well, we're wondering if they're going to crack 50,000. That being said, I don't want you to have the impression that I'm knocking this, that I'm saying, what a failure. No, they're still sitting down 50,000 people to watch the show this weekend. Now, that's a success any way you cut it. I'm pretty sure that even last year they were counting on 50,000 and counting it as a success. And knowing that there's some attrition in regards to last year, that the product is not as hot, that you lose the cachet of doing, of holding a big event for the first time, that always draws more people. Losing all of that, well, you see what kind of returns you get. That's a lot of, we're losing about 25, maybe 30,000 tickets as opposed to last year. That's non-negligible. And maybe that's not something you want to repeat necessarily next year. By giving a year off in London, you have to expect that, there's going to be that there's going to be maybe a little more people purchasing tickets this year because they know that next year the show's not coming. So it's like, well, we need to jump in and get our tickets this year, because it's otherwise we got to wait for we got to wait for 2 years then maybe. And I think maybe like in 2 years, the cachet, while not returning completely, I think it's going to be interesting. I think people will be like, oh, well, now they're back this year. Let's head on in. And who knows? Maybe the product will be hotter in 2 years as well. Yeah, these are all things we'll have to see. But yeah, I think that the idea that it creates the expectation for London, next in 2026 is a very, very good idea. And like Chad is pointing out as well, the idea of booking All In and booking it in July this year, or next year, is very interesting, because then it does give some time between All In and All Out. There's not going to be like this skip and 2 weeks later you're doing your next show. There's not going to, now things are going to be able to breathe a little more. Maybe it'll be better for the schedule on that front. But then it makes me wonder, what are they going to do with Forbidden Door? Because Forbidden Door is usually at the end of June. So do you keep Forbidden Door at the end of June and then you have like this crash build for All In, which they're clearly positioning as their WrestleMania, right? This is let's nuance this a bit. Let's add a little substance, a little sidebar, but not exactly a sidebar, because we're actually going to be, adding to the conversation as opposed to, having a complete aside here. They're clearly positioning All In as the WrestleMania, right? They're, everyone has been talking like, okay, what, and this has been going on for years. What's, AEW's marquee show? What's the big one? Well, a lot of people felt it was Double or Nothing for a while, since it was like the first real show under the AEW, the first pay-per-view under the AEW banner, right? Sure. A lot of people thought it was All Out just because it was like the first big show that they were doing that was leading into the TV. And All Out has had this aura of historical significance as well. It was, like I said, the first big show they put on. The return of CM Punk, his first pay-per-view match, his first match back after 7 years as well. Like, there's a lot of history, and All Out has always kind of felt like the big show for AEW fans, but it looks like Tony is closing the door on this and saying, no, All In's going to be the one. All In is going to be the one that we're going to associate with big stadiums, because we've done Wembley twice. Now we're doing one in the US. I don't think this is a momentum that he's going to let go of. I don't think he's going to slow down on this. I think year after year, this is going to be the show that they're going to head in to meet city officials and razzle dazzle them and try to get them into their stadium for a site fee. I think that's what they're going to do. This is going to be the show that they're going to do with this. So in that respect, it doesn't make sense then if this is your biggest show of the year, but you're going to spend weeks leading up to it in July building another show, Forbidden Door, that you're co-promoting with New Japan. Like, that doesn't quite make sense. So yeah, I think the idea, as Chad is pointing out, is that we might move back a Forbidden Door, or we might move it up, like past, maybe we'll, look, I don't know. Next year's schedule is going to be very interesting. Maybe we're realizing that 13 pay-per-views might not be ideal. Maybe all we need is 12. When Tony was saying he wanted to raise the number of pay-per-views, and he wasn't kidding, let me tell you. I think, I think that this is interesting. I think they're going to do a really good number. I think this is a show that's going to draw. They've got a full year to establish stuff and, hopefully find the formula to get themselves hot again. But even if they don't, I think this is a show people are going to travel to. I think this is going to be a something that's going to drain people to the city. And I also think that this is going to be an event that's going to create another like little WrestleMania weekend kind of thing, right? I think it makes sense. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be all sorts of indies that are going, the local indies are going to fire up and try to do some stuff. But I think like even some of the more national independents are going to come in and do some things. Maybe some of AEW's partners might come in to do some things as well. Because don't forget, Tony said something to the effect that there would be events planned throughout the week, right? And everyone immediately thought, oh, well, yeah, there's going to be Dynamite and there's going to be Rampage and there's going to be Coalition. But you could do a little more. You could do a little more than just than just like doing your TV shows. We're very, in Texas, you can probably sell some Lucha Libre tickets a little easier. All I'm saying, right? And don't forget, like the 12 is a Saturday, July 12th, 2025. Yeah. So there's that. So, that's interesting as well. Like you can absolutely have like a full day of stuff. You can have, Thursday, Friday full of indie shows and whatnots and just a lot of stuff going around this event. Who knows? Maybe we'll go back to the indie, to the WrestleMania weekends of old. If I can be so bold. And boy, am I rhyming. So, it's interesting, you have to wonder, okay? Yeah, because we've seen, Nick Khan and Triple H take pictures with who was it, like the mayor of London or something? I don't know. There's a lot of people wondering, does this mean WWE is going to London next year? And maybe, this is a way for AEW to just avoid like, oversaturating the market, and that people will buy tickets to WWE and then probably won't have the resources for AEW, whatever, It's like you do one or the other. You travel for one or the other, not both, kind of thing. And maybe, there's been some talks. Of course, it's not going to be WrestleMania next year. That's going to London because we already know it's in Vegas. Another show, another one of the big shows. I don't know. Look, I couldn't tell you. I don't know, but maybe. But the more I think about it, it's like maybe not. Like the signs point. A lot of the signs don't point to. A lot of the signs don't point to. A lot of the signs don't point to WWE going to London next year. If that like actually heading out there. Yeah, I mean, but I mean, you can't discount that as a possibility. I have a tendency to think that they just looked at their internal metrics and they're looking at their internal metrics. They're going over everything and they're like, no, listen, it would probably be a better idea to have All In the United States next year as opposed to heading out to London again, and then maybe you're just diluting the product. You create a little rarity, a little scarcity. It's just like, oh well, you're gonna have to wait till next year, kiddies, kind of things. Oh shucks, and then you get excited again, as opposed to becoming complacent. Oh yeah, AEW is coming back. That's not the reaction you want. You want, oh, AEW is coming back. That's the reaction you're looking for. That has the second reaction has a tendency to sell tickets. Has a tendency to have someone open up their wallet as opposed to, not. as opposed to not opening up their wallet. Does this, does this mean like it's an automatic success? It's an automatic guarantee? No, but it does establish an interesting little current for next year. if anything, I feel like AEW should have ran a stadium show in the US before this. I would have run a stadium show in 2023. Everyone's fully out of the pandemic. AEW was still 2022, actually. 2023 was last year. I would have done it in 2022. Coming out of the pandemic, everyone, you still have a good buzz around everything you're doing. CM Punk's still around, or sort of, or kind of, depending. And people are hype. They're excited to get out of the house. They just want to. They've been cooped up for so long. They just want something to do live. I think, had I been Tony Khan, I would have run the stadium show in 2022. I would have done that back then. Is it too late? No, of course it's not too late. It's never too late. But I think it's gonna do some good for the company. I think it's gonna do some good local press. If they can turn it into a big enough event, show that wrestling's back, be fantastic. And I just mean wrestling. You'll notice I didn't say WWE. I'm wrestling. He also, Tony Khan here was also saying, that he had 2 huge announcements, right, leading up to this. Remember? He was talking about the stadium show. It had been rumored for a while that there was a stadium show, maybe in the works. It had been rumored. Tony Khan had shot it down in an interview, but then it turns out no, it's fine. Yeah, I think it was Fightful that reported on July 15. Yeah, exactly. That AEW was planning on doing it. There you go. The other announcement, of course, is the media deal. That's what we're all assuming, right? For a big media deal. That's what we're assuming right now. Look, there's still too much in the air right now. A lot of stuff that still is not clear. So I don't want to sit here and start breaking down a deal that doesn't exist. Okay, that'd be nonsense, right? But I'm pretty sure that's the next one coming in. And I've been a proponent here, as opposed to a lot of people who said that AEW wouldn't make it to the end of 2024. A lot of people said on podcasts that AEW would not make it unless they brought in Jinder Mahal. Shout out Mike Gilbert. And in this case here, I've been maintaining that they were going to resign and they were going to get a raise. The amount of the raise they were going to get, I don't know what it'd be. But Tony Khan always said that he was confident, that he was feeling good, that he was having good negotiations, good talks. And, recently he started flexing a lot more. But even before he started flexing, there's one thing that I've noticed about Tony Khan is that in these types of situations, for these, he doesn't lie to media. He will dance around things, maybe. He will deflect, but he will never lie. And he won't say no, or he won't say something that doesn't happen, right? So when he started talking about we're having great conversations, things are going well, you could always chalk that up to him saying, to him just keeping some solid, honest groundwork going on right now. As opposed to, I think that if things weren't going well, I think we'd feel his annoyance a little more. I don't think he'd come straight out and say, these negotiations are shit. Everything is terrible. I don't think he'd be that upfront, but he'd probably make us understand that he was a little annoyed and things weren't going his way. But he's been talking about it's going to be the biggest deal in AEW history, how it's going to set the promotion comfortably for years. Our future is bright, etc., etc. And today, Sean Ross Sapp over on Fightful Select made a report where he wrapped up a lot of things, but added a little tidbit of information. And I'll read this off to you here. Sources close to the situation said that even previous to the most recent offer, All Elite Wrestling had been offered at least double, and these are in quotes, at least double the amount of their previous deal. Okay? Now, at first I was like, oh, okay, so they're getting double, but no. That was the previous deal. Let's read that again. See, sources close to the situation said that even previous to the most recent offer, All Elite Wrestling had been offered at least double. So, previously to the most recent offer, they were offered double. Now they have another offer on the table, which is more than double. So, AEW is getting a lot of cash here. They're going to get a lot of money. That's what we like. Of course, if the report is to believed, and I'm pretty sure Sean has done his diligence here and is made quite sure that these statements don't come from the janitor, for instance. I'm not saying that his sources are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, I'm pretty sure he quadruple checked this to make sure that everything was okay, because this is such a hot button topic, right? Because somehow, in the minds of the dopiest wrestling fans, AEW is not a success, and I mean that I mean that in the most profound sense, deep in my heart. I believe that people, I believe that these grifters, these bad faithers really do believe that AEW is not a success. I think some of them don't, come to think of it. Some of them know it's a success, but won't say it out loud because it's bad for the brand. But, there's a lot of people who believe that AEW is a failure for some reason because it's not pulling numbers like WWE, which is insane to me. And you cannot say that this promotion has not been a success. Television ratings, pay-per-views, like the metrics are there. They could be better. Ratings could be better. Attendance could be better. Absolutely. But to think that this is a failure, everyone's completely off their gourd here. Like just completely out of their mind. So you know what this does? This means that the bad faithers and the grifters, they're all going to have to find something else to complain about, right? Everyone who was saying that AEW is not going to make it till the end of 2024, they're going to go out of business and so on. They're about to sign a huge deal. Will it be as big as WWE? No, most probably not. It's not going to be as big as WWE, But but nonetheless, it's going to be a huge deal that is probably going to make them solvent. As long as if it does that, that's a huge deal. If it gives them the wiggle, if it gives them, the wiggle room to do other things, that's tremendous as well. There's a tremendous amount of really good things to come out of here, right? So, of course, these bad faithers are going to have to try and find something else. And you know what? The goalposts have already been moved. They're already set. They're already, you can see, because, the Lord and Savior of the bad faith actors regarding AEW, Eric Bischoff, he's already tweeted something out today. He's already prepared because he's heard the news. He's probably had a couple of inside friends tell him, the deal's coming up and it's going to be huge. And he's probably grumbling, next to his big green egg in Nebraska, and he's probably real angry. And he's like, well, what are we going to talk about now? Because one of their things was that constantly was saying AEW is going to go out of business by the end of the year. By the end of 2024, it's not going to make it. But now he's grumbling because he is going to make it, because the deal is going to be renewed with Warner Brothers, and it's going to be for a lot of money. So Eric Bischoff today, in preparation for that, has already sent out the talking points to his legions of goobers to make sure that everyone knows what to respond when reasonable people like myself and a lot of you, my A+ audience, are going to put forward here. And what is he complaining about? Well, he's complaining about the creative now. Because here's the look. Let me read the tweet. Let me get it here. Let me pull up the tweet. And I'll just read it off, and you'll see straight off the bat. Right? Okay. So they're making. Here are the new talking points, folks. It is to the point where Tony Khan will be forced to put a new creative system / process in place in order to survive. There's the word survive again. He wasn't going to survive 2024, but now he's surviving. And now he is going to make it past it, but he's going to need this new creative system to survive. A renewal with WBD will only buy them time. That's all it does. It will only buy them time until the inevitable. You see? You see what we're doing here? The product will continue its current trajectory, losing audience, deteriorating ticket sales until this issue is resolved. Tony has the resources to accomplish this. The current lip service lauding their current storylines is laughable. There is no structure, discipline, or any of the elements of a story that makes it compelling. I really hope Tony comes to this realization before it's too late. There you go. Now we're falling back on the creative. We're falling back on the creative, okay? Falling back on the creative, this old tired trope where you can objectively point and say, this is no longer real. There is no longer a problem with storytelling in AEW. Folks, I'm going to talk about it when we do the preview, but just as a preamble, All In this weekend, every single match on the card has a story, and not just like a last minute slap together thing. Everything has a build. Everything has a story, even down to the gauntlet match with Orange Cassidy and his buddy, and Orange Cassidy winning the #1 spot. Everything on this show has a story. And if you've been paying attention, if you've been listening to the AEW reviews that I do on every Thursday, you will know that everything has stories on AEW now. Everything connects. Everything makes sense. There's a lot of things that are over. All of these stories have, most of them have a lot of heat, a lot of buzz. That's just how it is. So you see what we're grasping at. We're going back to the old standards. AEW doesn't have stories. Observably false, and the most dishonest presentation of AEW you can get. But of course, like I'm telling you this, and I'm not expecting Eric Bischoff to watch the show. He doesn't watch the show. He doesn't watch AEW. We know this. He doesn't even watch WWE because he sees Tama Tonga and he says, "Oh, this bright young man," or whatever. Tama Tonga, 40 years plus. What a great young man. You know, shades of Carlos Colon here, coming into the Royal Rumble. This is the point, is that these are going to be the talking points moving forward. We're going back to the stories. But anyone who watches WWE knows that that's full of shit. Anyone who watches AEW, knows that this is full of shit, that there are stories everywhere. I would argue there are more stories on AEW than there are in WWE these days. Everything on All In has a story and a build to varying degrees of interest. That's very personal at that point, but they're there. I'd say that it's to a degree where I'm like, maybe I'd like a few stories less. Maybe, one or two less. And there's stories on the undercards and stuff. You know, the hologram debut. Tremendous stuff. And then he gets into the ring with, and then there's has a little couple of week thing with the Beast Mortos. Ends up having a tremendous match. There's stories everywhere, up and down. You just can't stick with that narrative anymore. Coming from Eric Bischoff, right? Who would just throw the cruiserweights together every Monday night and just like, do whatever. There weren't stories in the cruiserweights. There wasn't, they didn't need stories, don't get me wrong. But there weren't stories. Well, this is it. This is why, these people are going, the reason why Eric and people like him are going to cling to this stuff is because this is what they've built for themselves now. This is where they've pigeonholed themselves in. They can't backtrack and then start going, you know what, AEW is doing pretty good now. They can't, because their entire brand is talking to the discontents, to the malcontents, and the people that already hate them, who already can't stand them, the fans, the actual AEW fans who can't stand this stuff. They're not going to suddenly go, oh, maybe I should go listen to Eric Bischoff. No. He's poisoned now. He's poisoned himself to that crew. So of course he's got to continue down this road. He's got to find something else. So, that being said, just prepare. I don't know when this announcement's going to come up. When I do it on the 5th anniversary show, the 5th anniversary Dynamite, which is in October, something like that, right? Isn't it in October? That's when I do it. And then boom, you set out your press releases. Or I send out the press releases and the announcements everywhere like a half hour before a Monday Night Raw. That's what I do. So, we got the stadium show. That was the big announcement. The other announcement, we don't know what it is right now. Wink, wink. But when it comes, it's going to be exciting. I can feel it. Little, if you contract news and injury news, let's do this this little feature that we've been doing over the past month or so at this point. I kind of like it. Do you guys and gals, non-binary pals, like it? Let me know. A little rundown of things happening. We got a little update on Rey Fénix's AEW contract. This is via the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week. Of course, there's the, we've been following this here on the MrWarrenHayes show over the past couple of weeks, where both Penta and Rey Fénix are impending free agents. The feeling is that they're going to be moving on to WWE. Meltzer, though, wrote in the Observer that AEW does have the option to extend Fénix's contract for another year due to injury time. Here's the quote from the Observer. Obviously, Penta and Fénix are not being featured. There is a concern now because AEW has the right to extend Fénix's deal for another year due to time off, due to injuries. Because of all the talk of his going to WWE and when he's starting and such, Penta did a tweet saying stop the gossip, which he did last week, I believe. And my present is in AEW. There were rumors going around that he was going to NXT or getting a physical for WWE in Pittsburgh, and he's obviously not about to do anything of the sort while under AEW contract. He just obviously can't have signed a WWE deal until that AEW contract expires. So there you go. So this is where we're at right now. We're still not quite sure what the setup is for these two guys or what's going on. And yeah, look, I mean, I found it's an interesting little detail that Dave is adding here, because I found it a little weird that Penta would jump on social media and tell people, look, stop spreading rumors. I'm still with AEW. What are you talking about? Don't say this stuff. And then, Dave is like, well, they could extend the contract on Phoenix because of injuries. Maybe Penta was just doing that to calm things down and say, look, I am not, stop spreading rumors so that they don't tack on more time on my brother's contract, right? Because we're a package deal. And if he has to stick around more, then I'm stuck too, kind of thing. So maybe that's one of the details. Maybe that's one of the reasons. I mean, in regards to why they're doing that. And it's interesting that this is coming up. That Penta is tweeting out about stop spreading rumors when Tony Khan during a call or an interview, I don't remember which one. I think it was during an interview where he was basically saying that WWE is still involved in contract tampering. Isn't all of this really unique? Like, what aren't these circumstances just bizarre, right? Isn't it strange? Yeah, like Chad said, I think it's Penta trying to help out his brother. I think that's what it is. But at the same time, because he knows it's going to impact him. So, he's trying to pull back. But isn't all of this very interesting? Like, it's all the timing on all of this is what I'm trying to say is very, very interesting, right? It's very, very interesting. Well, look, Chad is saying, that it's a shame that they couldn't keep the Lucha Bros. And I agree, because I really like the Lucha Bros, and it's going to be a shame. They're going to be, they're going to be wrestling, the LWO and the Phantasmo crew over on the other side. And we know how this is going to go, and it won't be half as entertaining as when they were here, and, doing great stuff in AEW. But, I'm all for some shakeups, moving around, stuff happening. I'm all for this. Bobby Lashley was officially moved to the alumni section of the WWE website. Lashley's profile is no longer included on the active roster of WWE's website. Instead, it's all been moved to the alumni section after it was revealed last month that his contract was up very soon and was expected to leave the company. So that time is pretty much done, right? And this was, look, I can't, we've talked about it a bit, but it bears just repeating very quickly. I'm not surprised because Bobby Lashley was absolutely a Vince guy. Absolutely 100% a Vince guy. And it's probably not what Triple H wants to work with, right? And he said so himself. Lashley did in an interview that he connected more with Vince. Let me see if I have the quote here. I have records of stuff here to make my research a little easier. There you go. He said, I haven't had too much of a connection with Hunter. Hunter has his guys, and I've tried to, but we haven't really worked enough together to get to know each other. So it's a very diplomatic way of saying, Triple H just doesn't know what to do with me. He's got his own guys. He wants to push them. Honestly, it's a very nice way of just putting it. He put it very mildly, if you ask me. Very, 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 very much so. What do we got next? Oh yeah, Bryan Danielson said that he wasn't that he's working without a contract. He during an interview with Fightful, Danielson said that technically he's going into the match as a free agent. Now he had said, I believe it was on the July 31st Dynamite, that that the next day, like on August 1st, he was officially a free agent, right? And he said in that interview, I believe with Sean Ross Sapp, he said, I have no contract right now. I'm just not under contract, which is crazy. It's crazy. Tony Khan, he added, Tony Khan and I have talked. I'll always pick up the phone when he calls. If I'm by my phone, I have to put that out there because he called me last night, but it was 9:30 at night Pacific time and I was already asleep. What a dad. The first thing that I'll have to do when I'm done wrestling, the thing that is my priority is get my neck better, which probably involves some type of neck surgery sooner rather than later. So that will be my first order of business, and then I'll help AEW where I can. I love AEW, so I want to help as much as I can, and as much as they want my help, I'm willing to participate. So well, if you've been listening to my podcast for the past couple of weeks, you know where I stand on the Danielson stuff. And if it's not clear, we're going to talk about it when we preview All In just a bit. I have difficulty believing that Danielson is working without a contract right now. I think that this is all part of the work. Because why would he be going? Why would Tony Khan, unless there's like this blood bond between them, like this unshakable bond of trust? Why would Tony Khan be going into the biggest show of the year for the company in front of their biggest audience this year, in front of a highly anticipated match, and have one of the two participants not be signed to the company? I think they're perpetuating the fact that Danielson doesn't have a contract to add some credibility to the fact that his contract may be over. What would you buy more? Would you buy more the idea of Danielson still being under contract, but then losing a loser leaves town match? Does that make more sense to you? Or does it make more sense to him having him not work without a contract, to have him working without a contract and be in a position where he might be in a loser leaves town match? What creates more possibility? If it was out there that he still was under contract, people would be hand waving this and going, well, he's still under contract, so he's not really losing, right? Now this still maintains the doubt. It still maintains the doubt that Danielson might lose because, hell, he's not under contract right now. But for me, it just piles on to the idea that he is absolutely winning at All In this weekend. It's still the thing. Like, because Danielson's a worker and he's been working this so hard. He's been working this so incredibly hard. He's not done with this company. Listen, come on now. Going around acting like this is his farewell tour. What are we doing here? Anyway, sure, okay. Let's say he's working without a contract. Like I said, unless they have this immutable bond, he and Tony Khan, I think Tony Khan is playing with fire, and maybe there is some reality to him being a bad businessman. But I don't buy it. I don't buy it that he's not under contract. I think this is a nice little story they're telling, but I don't buy it. I really don't. Beth Phoenix, also last week, last week, confirmed that she's no longer under WWE contract. She was interviewed by Chris Van Vliet, and she said the following: I am not under contract with WWE. I am currently a free agent. I have a great relationship with WWE. I treasured my time there. I feel there's other opportunities that have presented themselves, and I feel the motivation right now to kind of explore what else is out there and explore myself. But my relationship with WWE hasn't changed. I have so many friends there, and I appreciate it and I enjoy the product as I always have. I love NXT. I have a special place in my heart for NXT, of course. And just the system of seeing, and seeing young people come up and go through that excitement of developing themselves for the big time. So I love WWE. I always will. That's fine. I mean, that's also good for her, right? I've talked to, it was leaked a couple of weeks ago that Beth's contract was coming up. Now it's like she's confirmed it. She said it. It's done. And I'm going to echo what I felt a few weeks ago. I'm still in the same boat as this. I don't care what happens to Beth Phoenix, honestly. And I think her showing up in AEW is a question of time. Once Adam Copeland heals up. And I am not excited at that prospect. I don't know what Beth Phoenix brings to the table. I don't even know what Beth Phoenix brought to the table when she was in her prime. Like a perfectly competent mid wrestler, and let's move on that her position, was conflated because she was sticking around. They were giving her the Legends treatment, so on and so forth. So, and you can tell here when she says there's, I feel the motivation to kind of explore what else is out there. I'm like, all right. What are you going to do? Yeah, are you going to go, jump in on a GCW scramble? No, I don't think so. Are you going to go work Stardom? No, I don't think so. We all see where this is going. And again, like, no disrespect, because I think she's a perfectly fine pro wrestler, but I don't necessarily want her doing things, especially in a division right now that seems to be rocking and rolling, that seems to have found its groove. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. And now it is time to get excited, get pumped. It is the G1 Climax 34 review. I kind of said, I was saying to myself, maybe I should, it's not really a review, okay? Yeah, because I did do daily coverage of the G1 Climax 34 this year. And there is no way that there's no way that I'm going through everything in minute detail when everything is already there. So if you want to get like my day per day analysis and thoughts and reviews on every night of the G1, it's right there available on the YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast application. It's all there. So you can go and dig as deeply as you like. But what we're going to do is maybe more of a post-mortem. But I put review like in the title because I feel like review is a lot more intriguing and it's clearer as well for folks, as opposed to post-mortem, which sounds very macabre. It comes across as macabre. I know you, the A+ audience, you get it. You know what post-mortem is, but it doesn't, it doesn't have the same zing to it as review. So I'm calling it a review, but in reality, it's more of a post-mortem. And we are going to start by talking about the final night of the G1. Well, not really talking about the final night of the G1. We're going to talk about the whole thing. I thought this was a better tournament than last year. Last year we had the 4 blocks. We had the uneven nights, I thought it was a hard tournament to follow. It was difficult to get into. You can recall earlier this year when I was following the Best of Super Juniors tournament, right, in New Japan. And I was telling you, the Best of Super Juniors tournament was okay. Turned out it wasn't like exactly super exciting, but was an easy tournament to follow and was easier to get into because, as opposed to the G1 last year, because you had your 2 blocks, you had a limited number of guys, and the stories sort of developed themselves in these 2 blocks, as opposed to over 4 blocks where you're just trying to keep track of everything, which isn't necessarily hard, but like what rises to the top when your tournament is so spread out? Like who stands out, who comes across, what are the stories you're trying to tell, what are the big stories that are supposed to come out of the tournament? Very hard, very difficult. This year, and when I was watching the Best of Super Juniors, I was hoping that the G1 would go back to the 2 block setup, and they did this year. So that out of the gate was tremendous, and it was done under the allure of freshening things up, of rejuvenation. That's a word I've used quite a bit. Rejuvenation in the sense that there are no slouches allowed this year. We didn't have no Yujiros, no Chase Owens, no Latter Day Kentas, no Bad Luck Fales, no Toru Yanos. Everyone in the tournament this year was there for a reason, had something to prove, maybe had a chip on their shoulder, maybe wanted to work for their spots, work to protect their spot, but everyone in the tournament felt valuable. And that was straight off the bat was a plus. And on top of that, a lot of the young guys were positioned in this tournament to also, give the impression that this youth movement that was leaned into last year, but wasn't really, no one pushed on the gas to make it happen. You felt this year, oh, well, maybe we're going to lean in a little more, right? Where you finally had, Yumera and Tsuji and Narita and Shota Umino. You had all these people together in the tournament, and they could all shine because everything felt fresh. And I'm talking about people, we're talking about freshness, and we're talking about, let's say, people who we were talking about slouches, people that we didn't want in the tournament. Well, people that are stalwarts that we expect in the G1 didn't make it this year. We're not in the tournament, like Tomohiro Ishii, who has been the MVP of the tournament for practically 10 years? I don't know, something to that effect. Like just delivering great matches every single time. He wasn't in the tournament. Yoshihashi, Taichi, like guys that you're used to seeing, but were knocked out in the playoffs round, in the play-in round, I should say, where they had a little tournament for qualifiers for people to go fill in the last spots of the tournament, the last spot of A block and the last spot of B block. And that started off really cool because they gave room for 2 really young trainees, 2 guys just fresh out of the dojo, Bolton Oleg and Callum Newman, to get their sea legs and endear themselves to the audience by participating in these play-ins. So they had to earn their spots in here alongside other people that you usually see in these tournaments. And look, I was talking about, it just came to me. I was talking about Tomohiro Ishii. I was talking about Yoshihashi, Taichi. Hiroshi Tanahashi, first G1 that he was not in for, I believe it was 22 years. The 22 past consecutive G1s, he has been in it, and he was knocked out of the tournament by Bolton Oleg. Isn't that something? So all these guys, they all made a name for each other. And, we knew once we get into the G1 proper, Newman and Oleg, they'd take the L's. That's what they were there for. They wouldn't have winning records. Their job was to open up the shows. They'd be the curtain jerkers and lose some matches, and that's fine. You need a guy on either side doing that. That's fine. But as you're getting ready to watch the G1, this little play-in scenario I thought it made the whole thing feel new, gave you hope that things were going to, in fact, be better. And turns out, I think they were. But it got you excited in the right ways. Made you think that, you know what, maybe this year, everyone is putting their money where their mouths are. Maybe this is the year that, Hiroshi Tanahashi with his 10-point plan when he was talking about doing more with the young guys. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is truly a rejuvenation, because that's how it felt getting into this position here. So that got us. That got the tournament set up, led us into the first night of action, and I thought straight off the bat, we had something here. We had something special. It was different. You had the surprise victories. You had the inclusions of two outsiders, right? Well, one is an outsider. The other guy, I think, is going to be sticking around. But you had Konosuke Takeshita and Jake Lee added to the mix. Yeah, the tournament felt different this year. It felt fresh. It felt like it just felt completely different. And overall, like I said, I think it was a better tournament than last year. I think it's a better tournament than the past couple of years, 2 or 3 years. I think you have to go back a little bit to find a G1 that really reached the highs and was really exciting. But this was not a bad tournament by any stretch of the imagination. There sincerely was too much good on it for it to be just like dismissed and however, there's always one of those. However, I will concede though that this is not one of these high-end G1s that were present throughout the 2010s. The really great years of the G1. The one that a lot of people do remember with great fondness, because you'd sit down and you'd have just like an evening, 4 or 5 matches of just like the greatest wrestling you'll see all year. Yeah. Match of the year after match of the year after match of the year, just throwing out stars like it's nobody's business. That's not what we got. This was a solid tournament, well wrestled overall, but not. We're not getting 5-star specials every night. In fact, I did not give a single 5-star rating throughout the G1 this year. Not that I did last year. I think I gave 1 last year, but this year I didn't give 1. Or did I? Well, the finals. That's a lie. I gave 1 to the finals, right? No, I didn't give 1 to the finals. Not even. So look, I'm even. There's nothing here that I think, at least on my end, will end up on my match of the year list. Which again is weird because it's the G1, but then again, these are what the G1s are now. At least until some people start waking up, but we'll get to that. So Zack Sabre Jr., of course, I'm pretty sure you know by now, is the man who won the tournament. For once in years, my actual prediction for the winner of the G1 actually happened this year. But I thought it was a safe bet. I thought it was a good plan. And, under this guise of rejuvenation, I think if you're not going to push one of the young guys to the top to main event the Dome and win the G1 and main event the Dome, right? You will, at the very least, if you go with Zack Sabre Jr., it will at the very least feel super fresh. It will at the very least feel different and exciting and give a good shot in the arm to this main event scene, which has to be rebuilt right now. You know, the main argument that I have, well, we'll talk about the drawing capabilities. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the match itself, which I thought was tremendous. I thought it was a very good match. The finals were Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yota Tsuji, and it's a fantastic match that really highlighted both of these guys' major strengths. Tsuji being a big, charismatic powerhouse with a great crowd connection, and Zack Sabre Jr. just having become this absolutely complete professional wrestler. You know, not just a guy who, you know, with his noodly arms slapping on holds. No, a guy who can communicate, convey a story, who can captivate attention and can get the crowd excited for what he does, even if what he's doing is not exactly your conventional perception that you have of the, you know, Shin Nihon strong style, you know, kind of thing. It was just fantastic. You know, they're dropping, you know, Yota Tsuji's dropping big moves on Zack, and Zack is working the arm throughout this tournament. The crowd gets alive throughout this. Like, the crowd is into this, and the crowd is into this pretty evenly. Whoever's struggling to get to a hope spot, the crowd is cheering for. I don't think they have a clear-cut preference. Even if you could argue that Zack Sabre Jr. is, you know, a little tweenerish. You know, he's always a bit of a jerk. I think the audience was really into him nonetheless. Zack Sabre Jr. at some point interrupts the Gene Blaster with a Fujiwara armbar, and it was just like, that was fantastic stuff. Like, that was just absolutely fantastic stuff. And the audience are into it. They cheer. They see this and they're up on their feet. Yota Tsuji powers out of it with a power bomb though. Avalanche Falcon Arrow by Tsuji as well. He teases using the deadbolt suplex, which was the move that which is Yuya Uemura's move that Uemura used on him, and that's his finisher. Well, he's like, look, as commentary told us, Tsuji positions himself as the leader of the next generation of the Reiwa 3 or whatever. He's positioning himself as the leader. Yuya is going to be his rival. That's the story that they're establishing, this long rivalry between the two, between him and Yuya Uemura. So, but nonetheless, if he's the leader, he's going to use everything at his disposal, hearkening the energies of all the other young guys like him and their moves and their spirit or whatever to get the job done. He doesn't land the deadbolt driver though. Zack Sabre Jr. lands a Zack driver and does an Ogawa figure four for a little tribute to his mentor Ogawa, who had to retire recently. We talked about it last week. Stunner by Yota Tsuji, triangle by Zack Sabre Jr., who rotates into an arm hold, which was terrific. And then Zack starts just wrapping him up into this unbelievable stretch. And they're just the wackiest submission. You're like, how in the hell does this even work? Tsuji is trying to hold on, but he can't. Every one of his four limbs are trapped in somewhere or another. And he calls uncle, and Zack Sabre Jr. wins. Tremendous minute, 4 3/4 stars from me. Just an absolutely tremendous finish to the tournament, and to the finals. The playoffs, I guess, right up into the finals were all tremendous. It's all great matches. You will not be bored if you go back and watch any of this. But I'm happy he won, and I think it is fresh enough to be interesting, right? And this is something I think that a lot of us, well, myself anyway, kind of saw coming, because when he lost he being Zach, when he lost the New Japan World Television title, I think everyone saw it as him losing up. I don't think anyone really saw it as, okay, now he's going to meander on the mid card and, maybe go back to the TV title or maybe do another tag team. I don't think anyone saw that. I think that for a while now, ever since last year, I think last year, when you do a proper think back and a retrospective, last year was essential in establishing Zack Sabre Jr. as a credible top guy. They spent the entirety of 2023 building Zack Sabre Jr. as a guy who can move up and shall move up. They gave him his own stable, right? He could look. His nickname now is the Front Man in TMDK, right? Like, there's no, come on now. Like, the signs are all there. So they give him all of this, put him in the center of his own group. He's the leader. He's the guy. He's cornered by a bunch of dudes. And he comes to the ring. He wins the TV title, and he goes on a tear. One of the best title runs of 2023, bar none, in any company, was Zack Sabre Jr. Just plowing through company. I would say maybe Orange Cassidy is the only guy who comes close. Maybe. But Zack was just outstanding. Now, of course, they had him win the title back after dropping it. Didn't he drop it to Tanahashi? I don't remember. I think it was to Tanahashi, right? And then they had him win it back again because they had to get it off of Matt Riddle because nonsense, and he's, a safe guy to do it. And then what did they do? Well, they had him drop it to Jeff Cobb, which is tremendous because he's had great matches with Jeff Cobb. And that was a good match for Cobb for the title. And since then, it's like, that was a little fork in the road where it's like they give him a call. It's like, look, Zach, we need you. We need your help here. We don't want you to see this as sending you back down the pecking order. We just need your help to get it off this guy. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, boss. But this is how it worked, right? And maybe he got into the tournament, and I pointed it out in the daily coverage as well. There were moments that you're like, man, after he'd win some matches and he'd run into the audience and he'd stand there, he'd have his arms extended, people would be patting him on the back, people excited. I'm like, look, this is it. This is purposeful. He's not jumping into the crowd and doing this for nothing. They are establishing him as a star, making him look like a star. And it worked all throughout this tournament. And he had all this big energy to him. Like, he was no longer, I don't know how else to put it. Just like this big energy to him that just grew, and not just within the tournament, but throughout the year. That just grew and grew. He was no longer, and Chris Charlton pointed it out as well. He's no longer, pissy, bratty Zack Sabre Jr. who'd throw fits backstage when he'd lose, put chairs around his neck and throw flip tables around, that kind of shit. No, it's a different kind of cockiness. Like, he's still Zack Sabre Jr., but it's confidence now. Now it's aplomb. Now it's like, I'm a top guy. I'm not just a guy who's always mad at the world. I can still be mad at the world, but when it's time for business, it's time for business. And if we go back and we look at how he was booked and how his matches were structured and how things were put together, you could see this coming. He was built to perfection to get to this spot. You can see the through line. So it was a tremendous tournament, and he's had great matches throughout. A fantastic main event with Yota Tsuji. Of course, the point of contention, the point of dialogue around him, from a lot of us nerds, is can he draw in the dome? Not that it might even matter, because he's asking for his title shot at King of Pro Wrestling, so it might even be a moot point. But nonetheless, like, look, I mentioned it earlier. The entire main event ceiling for New Japan has to be redone. It's under reconstruction. It's being renovated, because you've got Naito at the top. Then who else? Who else? Who can you call upon to bring to the dome that you're like, there's your draw? Shingo? I don't know. I don't know if Shingo's the guy. Tsuji, look, they put Tsuji in main event spots. I think he did good. His main events drew well. The last night, the finals, 8,056. I think we're starting to get a case for Yota Tsuji as a draw for this company. But Dome? I don't know. I don't feel it. There's no one else. So why not Zach? Why not Zach? Why not a guy who listen, is a guy who has been around in the company for years, who has been extremely, if not fiercely loyal. He's a guy who has elevated his game throughout the company, who has, made the region his home. He's learned the language. These are all things that you can that weigh heavily into these decisions, nonetheless, because the audience has to feel that connection with one of us Westerners. There hasn't been many Westerners who main evented a Tokyo Dome. Let's say Zach does make it to the Tokyo Dome, because now the path is not as clear as we expected. We'll get to that in a second. Let's say he does make it. He'll be the third foreigner to main event the Dome. Kenny Omega and Jay White being the two others. Will Ospreay never main evented the Tokyo Dome. AJ Styles never main evented the Tokyo Dome. You know what I mean? It'd be a big deal. And what, chat just mentioned it, but look, you can make a through line with Kenny as well. Kenny Omega is another guy who moved to the region, adopted the culture, respected it, learned the language, created that crowd connection. I'm just saying, there are things in motion right now. There are things absolutely in motion right now that where you can draw some parallels and say, well, look, Zach, even if he is an unproven draw, makes sense to put at the top in the Dome, especially if it's against Tetsuya Naito. Here's the other thing. Let's say we go with the argument with Yota Tsuji. You put Yota Tsuji and Tetsuya Naito in the Dome. What if Naito starts falling apart? Which is possible. We have seen this. What if Naito just starts falling apart? Does Yota Tsuji have the chops to guide Naito through to weather Naito through the storm? I would argue no, he does not. Does Zack Sabre Jr. have what it takes? Yes. Yes, he does. If things start going sideways and Naito can't, he can't land those destinos, well, Zack will be there to make sure that everything stays as smooth as possible. Like it's a decision that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. But like we said, he turns around. He turns around and makes a challenge for King of Pro Wrestling instead. Where he's like, we're gonna do Capital Collision first, right? Great Khan, I think, is next in line because he got a win on Naito during the tournament. Is that right? I'm drawing a blank. I am drawing an absolute blank, but I believe I am correct. There we go. Great Khan. Yeah, exactly. He did have the win over Naito, so that does establish the win. Got a bit of a blank there. Apologies. So he's nonetheless, so Great Khan is coming up next. And he's like, I'll fight either of you. Because he wants to go into Royal Quest 4 as the champion. Now, look, I think I've seen a lot of discourse, especially in the haunts that I haunt. People who like this idea and people who really don't like it. And I can't make a proper. Well, I can't look. I can give you the top lines, without getting too deep into it. But the people who don't like the idea of Zack Sabre Jr. not holding on to the title going into Wrestle Kingdom feel like it devalues the G1, the victory, the significance, the importance of the victory of the G1. I can understand that. But I think the idea of Zack Sabre Jr. flipping this on its head, as he should, like this is completely in character, flipping this on its head and then saying, no, you know what? I'm not waiting another 4 months, 5 months to get to the Dome. I want my shot now. That, or at least soon, that to me makes things a lot more exciting for the path to Wrestle Kingdom in January. Because let's be honest, let's be frank. Well, I'll be Warren, you be frank. Typically, once the G1 is over the past few years, once the G1 is over, the period between like September and December and January 4th is very, very tepid. It's very dull because we all see, the champion can have his defenses, but we know in the deep down bottoms and the cockles of our heart that we know that the champion's not dropping the title. So there's a lot of matches where you're like, this doesn't have any juice. It's a lame duck, it's a lame duck challenge. Who cares? This spices things up a little, and I got to tell you, I don't hate it. I really like it. And if this is a way to generate interest, get people into it, get more people buying tickets on the road to Wrestle Kingdom, I think touche. I think like this is a fair enough plan. You got to try something. Look, if Zack Sabre Jr. is world champion going into Royal Quest in October, right? That show sold out. That show will be filled to the rafters, standing room only. Like it's going to be crazy. The amount of people packed in there. that show sells out. And if it keeps things interesting as we move along, keeps things in, keeps us guessing instead of just sitting back and going, oh, well, we'll see it. We'll see you over in January once things get exciting again. That might be something, that might be something, that'll definitely be something that'll keep us interested and intrigued all the way to January without a shadow of a doubt, if you ask me. This is much more interesting. Don't you guys and gals and non-binary pals think I can't be the only one who feels this? And then there's the things where with Wrestling Dynasty the next day, right? Was it Wrestling Dynasty, right? Isn't it the show that they're doing on the 5th with the partners, the mixed show, right? That will probably have a hand in this as well. There's so many paths that we can go down at this point. And this makes it so much more interesting than just sitting back and going, oh, well, Naito, main event, sure, he'll get there. This at least keeps us guessing. I mean, there's a fair chance that he could lose the title on the way. There's a fair chance that he'll lose the title in the Dome. It might be Tetsuya Naito challenging him. In fact, it probably will. But the path to get there will be interesting. That will at the very least be interesting. So I feel like in this context, in where we are right now with New Japan, and in this idea of rejuvenation, I think Zack Sabre Jr. is a spot-on choice to win the G1. And, well, main event the Dome, he says in quotation marks. We'll see how that's going to shake out. And I am completely fine with wondering what the plan is going to be. This is at least more intriguing. It's surprising. It's breaking the tradition, breaking a mold, breaking expectations, shattering expectations. I'm fine with this. Let's shake up the status quo a bit. Completely okay. And there were other stories in this tournament as well, on top of Zach and all of that. Quite a few of them, actually. Well, first of all, if we wanted to talk about the MVP of the tournament, who I believe to be the guy who stands aloft everyone in the tournament. To me, it's Kensuke Takeshita, and Zach probably comes in to a close second, but I would even at some point, even at some point in the tournament, I was like, well, is it Hiroki Goto? God damn it, kind of thing. But I think Takeshita has just had fantastic performances. He's had fantastic performances, excellent matches. Like his output throughout this tournament has just been absolutely phenomenal. Let me see here. If I just pull up my top 10 here. See, I've got Takeshita in yeah, I've got him in here with 1, 2, 3. I think where's the Gabe Kidd one? Hang on a second. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, there we go. My rankings aren't exactly working as I thought. But I've got 3. He's got 3 matches in the top 10. With he's got 3 matches in the top 10 for me. He has been absolutely phenomenal throughout. Just like absolutely phenomenal. A guy who comes in and who wrestled. This is a guy who doesn't even go there. This is a guy who doesn't even wrestle in New Japan, And he was wrestling matches like they were like he was in the old school G1s. Like he was wrestling how I was expecting some of these young guys to come in. Not that he's old, but the New Japan young guys. And he's coming in here and he's doing what the boss man says. The boss man says, you got to put over some of my guys. And he's like, okay, cool. He puts over Yota Tsuji. He puts over Finley. He puts over Uemura. 3 prospects. 3 guys whose future in the company is important. He put over Bolt and Oleg. Gato sits him down and says, you've got to put over my young boy here. And he says, cool, I got you. I got you, boss. Booker man. And not only does he put him over, but like he works, he works. He goes hard at it. It's just tremendous stuff. And he's got this presence and this work ethic, this style in the ring that is unmatched. Who else pulled it off as successfully as he did throughout this entire year, this entire tournament? Carried guys, made them look good, made himself look good in the process. Like, this is a true pro wrestler. Like, this is a guy who gets it. And the thing is that he's not old. He's in this age bracket that New Japan is like, tripping themselves over to try and put over. So, like I'm at a point where I'm like, why doesn't he just stay in New Japan? Like I'm watching this tournament, I'm like, New Japan, and as good as the tournament was, like I said, good, but nothing exciting, nothing that'll chill you to the bone, nothing that'll have you jump out of your chair. There's guys here where you're like Umino and Tsuji. You're like, why aren't they just like lighting a spark? Why aren't they tearing the house down? They're fine. They're okay. They're good. But where's the greatness? And this guy has it in spades. Like he just goes out there and tears it down. Stay in New Japan. Stay in New Japan, Kanosuke. You'll be a megastar there. He's sort of complained about his position in AEW recently. He's kind of like, you know what? Yeah. If he's not satisfied, I don't know how long he has left in his contract. But a little talent poaching among friends never hurt anyone. Maybe Tanahashi's like, hey, you know what? I'm being silly with the talent poaching, but maybe Tanahashi's just dropping some hints. He's not contract tampering, but he's like, give me a call when your deal is up. I'll keep a seat warm for you. It's Takeshita in Japan right now. He in New Japan specifically, he would fill a gaping hole. Like you'd see him wrestle and you're like, man, this is what this promotion is missing right now. A guy like him, more guys like him. Why aren't the young guys wrestling like this? Where's that? Where is the fire, the drive, the crispness, the excellence that this guy is demonstrating when we have at least 4 guys in this tournament under the contracted by New Japan who should be able to be pulling this off? Why isn't it there? I'm just saying. So like I said, there was a lot of talk about the young guys. There's been a couple of them who really stood out. I think Yuya Uemura was a big story early on as well in the tournament, where he was just racking up wins and having these fantastic, just some great wrestling matches, and showing that he's got a crowd connection, that he's got this incredible babyface energy where he's just working from underneath and coming back up. Like the comparison was brought to Ricky Steamboat, and I think it's apt. He's so sound, he's so good, and he's got this energy. He's got this connection. He just came alive, especially in the early parts of the tournament. Then he started losing, and stuff happened, and then he got injured, which was worse, arguably worse. So we hope that he gets he gets back on his feet very, very soon, of course. But losing and having to forfeit his matches is really a shame, because I would have liked to see how his tournament would have wrapped up. But this guy was absolutely this guy was absolutely a standout. Just a lot of people really like Yuya, but I think he confirmed a spot for himself. It was special that what he had in this tournament, and I was really glad to follow that. And Gabe Kidd is another standout amongst the young guys. And look, I've always liked Gabe Kidd. I will always say it. Even last year, when last year was a weird year for New Japan. I think no one can contest that. Some people will even say it's a bad year. I kind of tend towards it wasn't very good. And in an environment full of stiffs and people that didn't just seem to have any energy, any vibe, any spark to them, Gabe Kidd coming out, acting like a weirdo, like a madman, throwing shit around, beating people up. I know it got grating for a lot of people, but I welcomed it. I was like, finally some life. Finally a guy who gets it, who's wrestling in New Japan, and he's like, no, we're not just going to stand around and do our moves and go home. We're going to light this place up. And I've always appreciated that from Gabe. And this year, in the tournament, he just took everything to another level. I think he's learned to channel that energy better. Even the detractors in my haunts who really didn't like him took a shine to him this year. And his output was absolutely phenomenal. He had one of the matches of the tournament with Shingo Takagi. Just a tremendous amount of work that he put in this year in the tournament, and absolutely made him a standout in an environment where we're talking about young guys. And when we talk about the young guys in New Japan, everyone had everyone always has the reflex to go to the Reiwa 3 and Yuya Uemura. But Gabe Kidd then pops up and he's like, oi, me, I'm here too, and I'm young as well. And I'm going to kick some ass. And it was tremendous. It was tremendous. Like, he outperformed every one of his peers in this tournament. I think he was second to none. Character work, in-ring work, you could tell he found a groove. He elevated himself in this tournament, and it was fantastic. Future has never looked brighter for Gabe Kidd. He just stood above the rest. And let's talk about the rest. Let's talk about the Reiwa 3. Ren Narita, Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji. I'm disappointed in all three of them. I'm disappointed in all three of them. I'm disappointed in Ren Narita, but he's saddled with this gimmick, and until they do a break and get him out of the House of Torture and try again, okay? I understand. Until they do that, Ren Narita is going to stay the same. He's going to stagnate. He's going to be annoying. He's going to continue. He had the worst matches of the tournament, and not because he's a bad wrestler. It's because of the gimmick. It's because of all the fucking nonsense that House of Torture implies. So, as long as Ren Narita is in this gimmick, he is never going to transcend. He's never going to elevate himself. He's going to be like Show. Y'all remember Show? Where we were all sitting around going, Show moving out of the junior division. He's going to be, he has to move out of the junior division. He's got such a bright future. He's going to be one of the aces of the company. And then this thing. And then House of Torture, and now he doesn't even care anymore. And I'd say Narita might go down that path. Now, I understand why they did it, because they had to do something personality-wise, persona-wise, because the Katsuyori Shibata facsimile was not connecting. It wasn't connecting with the audience. They had to try something else. I understand why they saddled them with the House of Torture, but boy, oh boy, this is not going well. Shota Umino, look, I like Shota, and I have a soft spot for him, and I want this kid's career to work. I think he has the chops. I think he has what it takes. He has to show that he wants it. I thought his performances were so dry. And the only one where there was, I feel like there was a true spark to it, was his match with Gabe Kidd. Everything else is just, it felt like it paint by numbers. I don't know if, and it's also shocking that he wasn't pushed. Now, I don't know if he's in the doghouse. I don't know if he just really is unmotivated. I don't know if he's just, if he wants to just go and wrestle in the US all the time. I don't know what the thing is. But whatever's happening in Japan right now with him is, there's something going on that's holding him back. I truly believe this. Might be him, might be outside forces, might be politics. I don't know what's going on. But there's something there. There's something, because, we mentioned, look, a lot of these guys get their bodies into shape. It's it's the G1. It's, you get into a certain form of condition, right? And I'm not trying to be, one of these fitness perverts, where it's like, wrestlers have to look a certain way. That's not what I'm saying. But Shota could look better than this. And he has looked better than this. Sometimes you can tell just by the shape a wrestler's body is in at a current time. You can tell whether they're motivated or not. And I don't think Shota's motivated. Yota Tsuji, look. Yota Tsuji had a very good tournament. He was put in main event spots most of the way. But I haven't seen this spark. I haven't seen the thing that truly makes him great. He has been in matches with great wrestlers. But where's that spark? Where's that thing that makes him transcend from being a great wrestler to a superstar? And he's got it. He's so close. And I figured that in this environment, he'd just explode Mount Tsuji, right? And we'd be all sitting back, sweaty, just dabbing the sweat off our foreheads and our cheeks at his performances. And we're like, this, because he's got everything: the size, the look, the charisma, the connection. He's got everything. What's keeping him from having that third gear? I haven't seen it throughout this entire tournament. So I'm disappointed. Now, is this a me problem? It could be, because, Liam Jones in One of My Haunts, he's the co-host of the You Gotta Be Kidding Me podcast with Garrett Kidney, where they talk about the history of TNA, which is a great, funny podcast, informative and funny. You get it both. It's the double play. Liam in One of My Haunts made a really great point. He said something to the effect of this: maybe Yota Tsuji is just meant to be an aura guy. Maybe he's meant to be a Shinsuke Nakamura who just has this incredible aura about him, has a couple of great matches a year, and that's it. The rest of and all he does is coast on this incredible vibe that he has, this incredible connection that he has. And I'm like, sure. I can buy that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's something that happens in pro wrestling. Sometimes if you've got that connection, you've got that natural charisma that makes you special, that makes you stand above the rest. Maybe you don't have to have the 5-star specials every week or every month or whatever. Just at precise moments. Maybe. But here's the other thing. Yota Tsuji's 30. Again, not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination, but like I often say, you hit 30, you're kind of, you get into your 30s, a wrestler sort of becomes a what you see is what you get type of situation. Where you're like, if you wait, you can't wait that long to put it all together at this point. If you don't have it put together now, the chances are very slim that you're going to put it together later. So I'm not discounting him. I'm not saying he's never going to find his footing, but maybe it is a situation where it's a what you see is what you get type of situation with him. And it could be a lot worse. But I think a lot of us had higher expectations than this in regards to Yota, who is fine, and I still like him, but I'm just a little disappointed. Another story, of course, was the Hiroki Goto arc throughout the tournament. You know, when he started having those really good and those incredible matches, and he started winning them, and he goes into the audience, and he picks up his little girl, puts her on his shoulders, and the crowd's going nuts around him. I'm like, are we doing this? Are you guys making me believe that Hiroki Goto might be running in here for one last big run and actually wins one more G1? Is this what we're going to... I talked about this during the daily coverage where I was adhering to this theory that he might win the G1, take the belt off Naito in the Dome, and be the perfect guy then to drop the title to one of the young guys, you know, at fucking Sakura Genesis or whatever. All of this was making sense to me. Yeah, was the G and G1 standing for Goto one more time? And I was into it because these matches were phenomenal. I was saying whatever, and I thought it was such a good story. You know, the guy who is the closest link to the past era of the great G1s is in here having great G1 matches, and he's fighting for a spot. He's fighting to hang on to this amidst this deluge of new guys and all this discussion about the new generation and so on and so forth. And he's like, hang on a second, we're not done yet. My generation is still here. I'm still here. And I'm going to prove to these whippersnappers that I still got what it takes. And I was buying into it. I was like, let's go. And then, like I said, then next thing you know, he's carrying his kids in his arms. I'm losing it. I think it's this was a peak moment of the G1. And it's a shame that it didn't last throughout, or that nothing else got me excited like this. But it worked to the point where I was outright saying Gatos should scrap whatever plans he has. He should sit down with the people involved in the original booking plan and say, we're going for Goto. The reactions are too strong. People are too into it. I would have rewritten some stuff. I'm telling you, it was a tremendous arc. That lasted a couple of weeks. Lasted a couple of shows, I should say, not a couple of weeks. Lasted a few shows, but man, I got excited. I was excited for Hiroki Goto. Down to when we were coming up with scenarios moving forward for the last night of block action. I was like, I was figuring out what does it take for Hiroki Goto to move forward, and they were all wackadoo situations, but I still held hope. Didn't quite turn out that way. That would have been cool as hell. Another story of this G1 was the Great O'Khan. He was awake. He was awake this tournament. That was, he was absolutely phenomenal. A guy that for the past 18 to 24 months seemed to just be snoozing by, doing his little comedy bits, you know, eating lemons with Tongaloa, you know, all this bullshit. Despite the fact that when he debuted, when he came back from excursion, you know, his presence, his look, his physique, you're like, we got something here. We got something special here. And he's got all this training background and this martial arts background. I was like, let's go. And I wouldn't say he's a dud, but he had flatlined really quickly. So thinking about the G1, I never expected that he was going to make it to the playoffs. I was like, this is a guy who's here to take some L's. He took some L's. Everyone took L's in this tournament, don't get me wrong. Except Zach, he's like just a couple. But he had this great comeback story, and every match he worked was what was good to great. Just some fantastic groundwork throughout. He was animated. He was there. You could feel it. There was something clicked in Great O'Khan. And now I'm back to being a Great O'Khan believer. And I hope that continues. But yeah, it sort of ties into this idea that I discussed where I feel like maybe some guys came into this tournament hearing all the scuttlebutt about the young guys and were like, well, what about my spot? Like, I think this G1 had a lot of, well, everyone's watching, you know, to see who's going to maintain their spots in the company. And I think it motivated a couple of them. I think it motivated Goto. I think it motivated Great O'Khan. Of course, going to the playoffs will motivate you as well. But I think it motivated him as well to be like, well, I think I need to hang on to my spot here. I think it motivated David Finlay as well. You know, having all of this discussion about let's go young guys happening all around you, and you're like, hang on a second, then we're going to fight. I was all for in a G1 environment where the guys would go backstage where two guys would go backstage after their match, and the two guys coming up would be like, okay, we got to do better than these guys. A little competitiveness and a little, okay, we gotta work for our spots. I feel like Gabe Kidd worked for his spot. I feel like Yuya Uemura worked for his spot as well, as far as young guys go. But Great O'Khan worked for his spot as well. I feel like they really put in the energy to not be forgotten, tossed aside. I thought it was tremendous. Like, on that level, I think this G1 was very exciting on that level, and I'm convinced there was something about that. Jake Lee is an interesting story too. Boy, he started off as a dud, didn't he? Holy shit. That Sonata squash. Woof. But he changed his course. Throughout the tournament, his matches got better. They got progressively better. He put more effort into it. It was a lot more interesting. Look, I'm not telling you here like this is suddenly it's the arrival of the next Ric Flair. You know, it's not the next Frank Gotch, but we got ourselves a better version of Jake Lee towards the end of the tournament, midway towards the end of the tournament. To the end of the tournament is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to the start. I saw the improvement. I even see it in my ratings where I'm like, okay, Jake Lee had another good match. Good for him, you know? And that was all good. And then there was this discourse around the expectations for Callum Newman. Like, I saw so many people just hand wave Callum Newman. Get him off my TV. What is he doing? The kid is 21 years old. He is in the biggest spot of his career, and his job, he's coming in here, and his job is to jerk the curtain every night, not have the barn burner, not have the match of the night, start off the show in a 10 minute, sub 10 minute match where it's just like, let's go through the motions and get it done, and then take an L. Why did people expect him to have like this? What were the expectations? To have a tremendous tournament? To just tear the house down every night? He is a literal rookie in New Japan. This is his first big spot. I said it when the tournament started. When he came out in that Will Ospreay reminiscent entrance gear, and he was doing os cutters and whatnot throughout the tournament, I said, these comparisons, this connection that he has with Will right now is going to come and bite him in the ass eventually. People are gonna get tired of it. They're gonna create unreasonable expectations for him. He's going to have to abandon that sooner than later. Well, it was part of the story of the tournament, and it sort of came across, and I think it ended up tainting people's perceptions of Newman, despite the fact that he couldn't land a friggin' ass cutter. He couldn't do it. He could not land any os cutters throughout the tournament. And like, honestly, I think people were extremely unfair with him. I think the most reasonable minds understood what his job was here, and it's like, I think he did well. I think he did exactly what needed to be done, and he didn't provide, 4.5 star matches. That's not what he was there for. They'll come down the line. But what he did provide was solid openers with a good pace, good energy. Thank you very much. Hit the pay window. Go have a steak. That's what it is. Good for him. But there you go. I mean, there's other, little stories with, El Fantasmo and his depression and all that, but I don't think those are all that interesting. But those are my standout tales of the tournament. And as far as the tournament goes, if you're looking for some recommendations where you'd like, I'd jump in, I'd see a few. What do you got for me, Warren? Well, how about I give you my top 5 matches of the tournament? Would that make you happy? It better. It better. These are my top 5 matches of the tournament right here. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Gabe Kidd from night 13. Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. on night 18. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yota Tsuji on night 19. There you go. Shingo Takagi versus Gabe Kidd on night 7. And Hiroki Goto versus Konosuke Takeshita on night 10. And there's a bunch of other great matches there as well. But if you want those 5, if you go with those 5, you'll have a tremendous time. You're like, hey, you know what? This tournament, the G1 is not dead. So that's how we're going to wrap up our coverage overall of the G1 this year. I'll probably be back to do more daily coverage next year, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We've still got a lot of stuff to come that's coming up with New Japan. Very exciting stuff, very unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's a good thing. But thank you to everyone who watched, listened along with me on the daily coverage, left some comments, shared some thoughts. Very appreciative of that, and it gives me all the juice that I need to do it again next year. And hopefully the tournament's even better. So fingers crossed. But look, we're just finished. We're just done for the year. Let's not talk about next year just yet. We got more stuff to talk about regardless. AEW All In London 2024. That's what we got left. We've got to preview this show, which is happening this weekend on August 25th from London, England at Wembley Stadium. Second go around for AEW. Biggest show of the year for them. as far as size, attendance, so on and so forth. Nothing else is going to come close this year. I guarantee it. I think this show is well built. I think this is a good build. And it's been indicative of how much the booking has improved in AEW as well. Because everything on this card has had time to grow, time to be nurtured, especially the top matches, right? And I know some people are, oh, this one's just put together like Hapdash and they put it together on Collision. You didn't see on that. Who cares? Like these are, if it was your main event programs, then you'd be like, well, this is kind of weird. But you know, the trios titles, who cares if they were just built on Collision? That's fine. It's a fucking mid-card match. I don't give a shit. They'll do their thing. It's fine. And it has its little story. It has its little build. I don't care that it was spread all over the place. You know, like the booking in AEW, while still not perfect, creatively overall, the booking has been significantly better over the past couple of months. There's some things that are wonky. You know, the Buck stuff, you know, with the general manager, the evil general manager stuff, the authority figures, that still stinks. That's bad. But there's a lot of things that are working really well, such as Danielson and Swerve, Osprey and MJF. These things are very, very well built, and they should be, because these are your featured matches. These are part of your featured matches. They're not the only featured matches, but they're part of it. Everything on this card has this story. I was talking about this earlier on the show. Everything on this card has a story. There is nothing so far on this card. And the world, look, I'm recording this on a Tuesday the 20th, August 20th. So between now and the show this Sunday, there are going to be more matches that are going to be added. Like, that's inevitable. That's just how Tony works. But right now, like, everything has a story. Everything has been built. Nothing is just like I was saying earlier, you can't pull out the argument where they're just throwing matches together. No, even the gauntlet match has a little story around it. So the contention, I'm telling you, the contention that AEW is the promotion that doesn't tell stories has been false for a while, but it's even falser now when you look at how everything is put together here. I will no longer be entertaining people who tell me, oh, AEW doesn't have stories. I'm just gonna shove them away. They don't watch the product. They don't keep up. It's fine. Like, it's going to be a tell. It's going to be a tell moving forward. This company doesn't have stories. You just ignore them. You can't, by engaging these people, you've already lost at this point. You know, anyway, don't even argue with people who say, oh, AEW doesn't have stories. You've already lost at this, if you engage them. It's fine. Let them live in their perfectly little built ignorance that they have, and we'll move on and just do our thing on our own. Yeah, I'd even say that the show has too many stories. You know, sometimes it's fun to just like slap a match together and like, here you go, enjoy. Let's start with the main event. Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World Title against Bryan Danielson. If Bryan Danielson loses, of course, he retires. He stops wrestling. Look, we've been covering this over the past couple of weeks because Danielson's been in the news, you know, a lot, talking about, I've been covering it on the Dynamite reviews, and even here when we're talking about contract situations, whatnot. Look, Bryan Danielson is a worker. I can't say this enough. He is a worker. He is a pro wrestler through and through. He knows how to get you in a building. He knows how to get you interested with what he's up to. If he has to clasp onto his neck, he will. His neck has been his greatest tool in all of this. Throughout the years that he's returned from the imposed retirement, the neck has been his greatest tool in making you feel things. And I myself, I've said this before. I myself, the first few times that he wrestled back in WWE, when he'd land on his neck and he'd do this, I'd go, oh shit, no. I'd buy into it. He got me. But since then, I'm like, I'm on to you now, Brian. I got you, Brian. I know what's up, Brian. There is no way that he's losing this week. I am so confident about this prediction. I am so confident about it. I am so confident that he's winning, that they want the sympathetic babyface win. I am so confident that that's happening for multiple reasons. All of this thing with, my daughter, 7 years old, wants me to retire. That's fine. Maybe it was true. Maybe it was a work. I think, all of this, and now doing his, then doing the, interviews and saying, oh, my daughter, she hopes I lose, come on, man. Okay. He's laying it on so thick. He's talking about the fact that he's going into the biggest show of the year and he doesn't have a contract. I do not buy that for a second. I don't buy it for a second. And then he starts talking about, I'm going to need neck surgery by the end of the year, which maybe, I'm not saying that he won't, but I'm saying, isn't all of this stuff convenient, that it's all coming into the public sphere, into our consciousness, all around the time where he is wrestling a huge event, a huge main event, putting his career on the line, and he has all these post-career obligations that are coming for. Isn't all of this convenient? I don't buy it. I don't. So, and look, and you know what they even did to make sure that the babyface aspect comes across? Do you know what they slightly turned Swerve Strickland heel again? If you think that what he did at Dynamite last week on the 14th, excuse me, if you don't think what he was doing was heel work, I don't know what to tell you. But there he is, being sinister, being evil, attacking Danielson, and people aren't necessarily into it. They're rooting for Danielson. They're cheering for him. They're going to milk this puppy dry. Swerve is going to work this main event as a heel. It's going to be perfect. And do not even consider that we are not ending this show with 50,000 people up on their seats, pointing to the sky as the final countdown plays, with Danielson heroically holding up the AEW title. The shots panning all around the arena, fireworks, pyro. Let's be real here. Let's be real here. We know how this is ending. And this is not a bad thing, because the vibes here are going to be tremendous. This crowd is going to be alive for this match. Can you imagine? People wanted Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness for this spot. For Danielson anyway, on this match. Maybe not the main event. Can you imagine? This is what people thought they wanted, I should say. And this is not an indictment on Strickland. Strickland is going to have another run with this title. If the rumor is true, we're getting Strickland versus Hangman at All Out 2 weeks later. And that is a match that does not require a championship match. It doesn't. And you know then, let's say this neck surgery thing has to happen. Let's just bear with me for a second. Let's say it does have to happen. Well, you have Strickland versus Page. Page finally wins. And then he gets to fight Danielson at Full Gear. No, not at Wrestle Dream. Full Gear, which is Hangman's pay-per-view. Don't forget. It was named after one of Hangman's gimmicks. We go to Full Gear, and he fights Danielson, and he wins the title back. Hangman does. And if so, this has been such excellent booking throughout the entire thing. Then Danielson can take his break. He can go have his surgery. He can go hang out with his daughter. The prospects here are phenomenal. This has been such a good build. It's been such a good, solid crescendo of a build. It didn't spill all the beans on the first night of the challenge or what. It built more and more and more. And it has been solid. It's been a good pro wrestling build. It's been an angle. A wonderfully put together angle. Just tremendous stuff. I'm excited for this, as you can tell. Then you have AEW's Women's World Title match. Toni Storm will be defending against Mariah May. Now, see, this is the opposite of Strickland and Danielson, where Strickland and Danielson was a crescendo, and didn't, dump its load on the first night. This, unfortunately, is what happened with Mariah May and Toni Storm. A feud, which started off blazing hot. Scorching. The turn will forever be one of the best surprise out of the blue one night turns. We knew she was eventually going to turn, but at that moment, no, I don't think anyone was expecting it. And just a tremendous visual, tremendous moment. Had the entire pro wrestling world buzzing about how great this was. And they have not been able to keep this match hot. I would say it is cold right now. Cold. And that is a shame. And I put a lot of this on the creative behind this, where they should have just stuck to the plan, stuck to the idea that Mariah just wants to murder people. You have her come out every week, every other week, and she's facing a J-Bone, and she dismantles them, and then after the match, just pummels them into a bloody heap. Have a local talent come in, pay them a little more to run the razor. Why wouldn't you do that? Right? And then Mariah looks like a maniac, and she's out for blood. You keep escalating this. But instead, they started doing vignettes with her where Mariah has a lot of qualities. She really does, and I think she's a good pro wrestler. But obviously the performance part, the acting, the whatever you want to call it, she's still very uncomfortable in it. She's very green. The first promo she cut, where she came out in Tony's robes and was just strewn over the top rope and talking straight in the middle, just directly to the camera, never addressing the audience who were booing her. She had great heat. She could have interrupted at any given moment to address them, to just look at them, but she didn't. That's inexperience. That's not that she can't do it. It's inexperience. And it's never caught on fire back again, even though Toni Storm is trying. Toni understands what the stakes are here. And you can tell in how, the fire that she's bringing, but Mariah is flat, completely flat. So I'm afraid this really did cool off. Now, when Toni Storm hits the ring for her match this weekend, and she's back in the red and black, back in the Toni Storm apparel that made her a superstar in the UK, an indie stalwart, a woman that everyone saw potential in, then we'll be good to go. Like, that'll be a great moment. I think we all agree this is what's happening, right? The story that they're telling is, this is how they dumped the Timeless Toni stuff. Toni Storm is having a mental breakdown right now. She's losing her mind. She cut her hair, all of that. And she's been slowly abandoning all the things that make the Timeless Toni gimmick. And now she's going to go back to Toni Storm as we once knew her, kind of thing. I think Toni Storm retains on top of that. And this feud must continue. The AEW American title will be on the line. MJF is going to defend against Will Ospreay. I think this is a foregone conclusion that Will is winning. However, don't put it past anyone, okay, that Will Ospreay will go, yeah, no, I'll do the JOB. Max can retain. It'll be a good moment. I got the big win last year. Like, don't be surprised if Will Ospreay ends up lobbying to lose a match, because that's just how he is sometimes. But I think this is a foregone conclusion, and I really like the build here. I thought this was good, and I think this is, I think this is the perfect combination of MJF's more sports entertaining instincts with the work. I think this has been a great combination of both. I think Max has really shined in this. Of course, you had the 60-minute Iron Man, in which I thought he was absolutely tremendous. Right up to the finish, of course. That's a whole other thing. But the one thing that irks me in this match, and Will Ospreay's fantastic, and he was fantastic here as well. And yes, as Chad is pointing out, he will return. The international title will return. But I am not excited for the Tiger Driver 91 bullshit. And I hope that we move on from this, because it stopped making sense weeks ago. It stopped making sense, I'd say, when Bryan Danielson came back from this threatening injury that Will Ospreay delivered unto him because of the Tiger Driver 91. And Will Ospreay was still upset about it, despite the guy being back and wrestling in a friggin' Anarchy in the Arena match. Despite that, So I hope to God we move on from this. It was annoying, and I don't want to reiterate everything, but Will Ospreay did not hesitate to use the Tiger Driver 91 on Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland wriggled out of the Tiger Driver 91. Will was going for it, and they retconned that. They ignored that. They maintain that, oh, you didn't use it on time. So yes, he was using it. And then you have Queen Aminata using a Tiger Driver 91, on Ring of Honor, and I'm like, okay, well, all right. Like, who cares then? Let's just use it right. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. So it's not even a good, compelling story. And we're gonna get NXT faces, and that is the part that irks me the most. I hope whatever they come up with is good. You've got two great minds in this ring, right? MJF is fantastic. Will is fantastic. And I'm sure they hear the commentary. I'm sure they hear the disgruntledness. Hi, Max. But I'm sure they'll come up with something. And I hope we never speak of this again, because it's really grating now. But it's going to be a great match, I'm sure. And Will Ospreay is winning. TNT title coffin match. Jack Perry will be Perry. Am I playing Dark Souls? Jack Perry versus Darby Allin. Sure. I mean, this is going to be wild, and Darby Allin's going to jump off of things, and they're going to do a real glass. They're going to do a real glass wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing, which I hope. I hope it's not too big a thing. Like I feel I understand why they do it. It had marked the anniversary of it. I understand why you do the little insider jokey joke here. But I would also hope that we understand in AEW now that it feels like we've moved on from CM Punk. Let's just keep that one buried, okay? Let's just move away, okay? I hope we're done. I think Jack Perry retains here. Jack Perry's TNT title run has been extremely underwhelming. And I think I think after this, they need to have him do things to just get some proper heat. And not just do elite lackey things. Just challenge someone and be a bitch. Just be annoying. That's what I'm hoping for. I think Jack Perry retains. But again, this has been a nice little solid build. Not gonna lie. In the chat, we're saying Sting appearance? Question mark. I mean, I know Sting. Teased that he was gonna watch this match, right? Something to that effect. I mean, you could have him show up. I mean, if AEW has legends that they can tap into to have an appearance once in a while, and if you're gonna do an appearance, have it doing it in Wembley is huge. Sure, why not? It'll suck that he'll have come to see the match to see Darby lose, But anyway. TBS title match. Mercedes Moné will be defending her title against Britt Baker. This is another one that has lost a bit of sauce. And I think that if it wasn't for the addition of Camille, this would probably feel colder than it is. But I think they did a fantastic job with Camille recently, establishing her as the heater. Yes, I know Britt was suspended. I get it. But even Britt last week, and I talked about it on my Dynamite review, I thought even Britt last week coming in through the audience, I thought she sort of sauntered in. She hopped over the board. There was no urgency to what she was doing. She was fumbling with her glove on the outside of the ring. Like, I think it's all kind of bullshit. I think it's all kind of bullshit. But I don't think Mercedes Moné is dropping the title. Not now. Chat says Britt gets some help from Jamie. Look, if you want to bring Jamie Hayter back, it's the perfect spot to do it. Do I think it's a good moment to do it? Like, I think it's a good moment to do it. Do I think that it'll be relevant to the match in a such that it will guarantee a victory? It'll probably be one of these things where Jamie's gonna, walk and brawl with Camille all the way to the back, and they'll be gone for the rest of the match, I still think Mercedes is going to win. But that place is going to come unglued if Jamie Hayter shows up, So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Britt and Jamie have real life heat. I haven't heard that. Although I wouldn't be surprised. Britt seems to have a lot of heat with a lot of people these days. The Patriarchy will be defending the AEW Trios titles against the House of Black and the Bang Bang Gang versus another team, TBA. I don't know. I have very little. I don't know what to think about this. It'll be fine. Like, these are all very talented, good people. Like, if this is one of these matches where it's just chaos and bodies flying, and I'm into it. Like, one of the an AEW special, right? There's a fair chance that could happen. If not, I don't know. I'm more or less into it. Not gonna lie. I think it'll be a good match, but I'm not like. And I know it's been well built. There's been stories. Don't get me wrong. I'm just okay. It's good. Let's get these people on the show. It's fine. AEW World Tag Team Title 3-way match. The Young Bucks are going to defend against FTR and the Acclaimed. I absolutely hate this. This is like, again, there's a story, there's a build, but I don't think this has been good. I don't think this has been good. Unfortunately, the Young Bucks have proved me wrong, where my expectations were like they were going to do an authority figure angle, but we're probably going to do it differently and well, because it's the Young Bucks, guys who've had their fingers on the pulse of the business for years. And now it's just like, it's just the same humdrum run-of-the-mill stuff. The Acclaimed are just completely tired, and they're shoehorning FTR in here. Look, probably, maybe the fact that the Lucha Bros are leaving has probably had an impact on this booking. Don't get me wrong, but I am not into this. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't think the Young Bucks have been good recently. I don't even think they're like the match they had last week against the Acclaimed. I don't even think was that good. I think the Bucks have with their authority figure stuff has been convoluted and dumb and full of holes, and it's been bad. Despite me being very hopeful from when it started, and the Acclaimed are just disposable for me. To me, it's a tired act. I'm not into them. I'm not into the Acclaimed anymore. So I got nothing for you on this front here. I don't have any pithy analysis. Okay, we'll press play and make it happen. I don't even care who wins. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, maybe in the big time situation, the Bucks are going to show up. And the Bucks are the Young Bucks. They're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. But anyway. Then we have the Casino Gauntlet match. As far as we know, Orange Cassidy is the only man in the match so far. I love these Gauntlet matches. I thought this will be what, the third? The two others were a blast. I think this is tremendous. I'm excited for this. Lots of surprises. Probably be some local talent in here. I'm expecting Michael Oku. He's AEW destined, right? That's the big rumor going around. I'm expecting Michael Oku. Grotto should be in there too. A lot of people are expecting the Ricochet debut, as Chad is pointing out as well. Is this where you debut him? Because he has to win. That's the thing. Right? Doesn't he? Shouldn't he win? I'm pretty sure Ricochet will probably see it as a bad omen if he's added into his first match and then loses. Then he's like, oh shit, I'm right back to square one. I'm right back to square one. We'll see. And then the FTW title match where Chris Jericho will be taking on Hook. A straight up match. I think Hook has been improving. He's been improving on many fronts. He's been improving. I thought his promo last Wednesday was very good. Probably the best that he's done so far. And I think he's been improving in the ring as well. Should we take the FTW title off of Chris Jericho? Sure, why not? But then at the same time, Hook could go. You know what I would actually like? I would like Hook to forget about this, then go win a couple of matches, then challenge Jack Perry, because they were a thing for a short while. You got some history there. That could be fun. I don't know, the FTW title, who cares? Like, who possibly cares? The only reason we care is because Chris Jericho is trying to make it a thing, trying to make it feel important when we all know deep down inside it doesn't. Sorry, Taz. So, it's like, it's fine. Maybe I think it's time for this feud to wrap up. I think we need to pack it up, send it home, boys. We're good. And then there's a match on the and then forgot to mention there's Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander for the CMLL Women's World Title, but they're going to have a pre-show match beforehand. It's going to be Chris and Stokely versus Willow and I can't remember right now, and I don't have the note right in front of me. I'm sure chat will be thrilled to tell me. And that's going to be a match on the pre-show. And whoever wins that match gets to pick the stipulation for the World Championship match. So that's so that's going to be something. That's going to be something. I'm excited to see this match, to see Statlander and Willow go at it again. They did it a couple of weeks ago on the Dynamite, I'm not mistaken. And I thought the match was okay, and I was expecting more out of them, but maybe this is the one where they turn it up and they let loose. So I'm kind of excited. Is it Ishii? I think it is. I think it is Tomohiro Ishii who's teaming with Willow, right? You got Big Tom-ish, making some of the easiest money of his entire career in this little, being a resident of Arlington, Texas for a few weeks, then flying into London to do a neat little intergender match where he's gonna just have to throw Stokely Hathaway around. That, my friends, is what you call easy money. So I'm into this. I think it's a good card overall. And I think with the atmosphere, the building, how people are going to be into it, and the quality of all these builds is going to carry a lot, I think. And look, AEW pay-per-views have a tendency to deliver and over-deliver. I'm excited to see what kind of review I'm going to have for you next week when I plonk down and I break this down in painstaking detail. That's probably going to... I'm hoping for a slow news week next week because we have got a lot to talk about just with this show. And then we're going to have the bash at the Berlin, right? Isn't that next week or the week after? The Berlin bash, isn't that next week? So we got to preview that on top of it. Show's already ready for next Tuesday, folks. There you go. That's how we're going to end the show today. Going to wrap things up. Thank you all very much for being here. Look, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, consider leaving a like and a subscription just before you leave. That would be a tremendous help. And if you're listening to this on your favorite audio device, your podcast application of choice, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify would be tremendous. I will be back Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. And like I said, next Tuesday, back in the saddle here. And we're going to be recapping all of this AEW action. But for now, thank you all very much. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you who were here live on a Tuesday night, thank you everyone for watching on demand. And I'll see you next time.